earlier today on Twitter, I saw a post from a Catholic writer who was stating that Catholics needed to calm down about people putting up decorations too early and the song Mary Did You Know and a couple other things that are surrounding this Christmas holiday. So I wanted to get into why Catholics, who are practicing Catholics, might get a little defensive about these pieces that people who aren't necessarily practicing or even necessarily considering themselves Christians, why we're getting a little defensive about these particular topics. So first off, Tertullian, one of the founding church fathers, stated in 212 AD, he said, "You Christians have your own registers, your own calendar. You have nothing to do with the festivities of the world. In fact, you are called to the very opposite, for the world will rejoice, but you will mourn." So as we come up to Christmas, we're celebrating Advent, right? And in that, we're essentially looking back at like when Christ wandered the desert for 40 days, and like we're looking at this whole coming of the birth and his martyrdom, all of these pieces. In fact, in paragraph 524 in the Catechism, it says, "When the Church celebrates the liturgy of Advent each year, she makes present this ancient expectancy of the Messiah. For by sharing in the long preparation for the Savior's first coming, the faithful renew their ardent desire for his second coming. By celebrating the precursor's birth and martyrdom, the Church unites herself to his desire. He must increase, but I must decrease." And that's from John 3, verse 30. So essentially, like, we have this whole concept of like, when they rejoice, we will mourn. There's another quote here that says, by Tertullian, talking about the Roman traders clad their doorposts with green and branching laurels. They smoked up their porches with lofty and brilliant lamps. And then further here in another quote, I'm reading from this book. It's one of my favorites, a dictionary of the early Christian beliefs. And he just talks about how, "Or else we should rescind that has been written, the world will rejoice, but you will grieve," in John 16, verse 20. So essentially he's saying, when the world rejoices, let us grieve. So the world rejoices as Christmas is coming forward. When this is a time when we're grieving, we're longing for Christ to be here and for him to return, while the world is all focused on the presents and the grandeur of what Christmas is. And then Christmas ends and everyone's like, oh, Christmas is over. But that's when the joy begins. Because in the Catholic faith, we put up our decorations on Christmas Eve. We go and we celebrate through Epiphany, through January 6th, when Christ was baptized. So then we're rejoicing when the world is kind of like, oh man, the holidays are over and all this stuff, we gotta pack up. And when actually our holidays are just beginning. Our joy is just beginning. So by buying a tree the day after Thanksgiving, it's practically dead by the time that Christmas comes around. And so this whole concept of just being there for what Christ wanted, and for what we're longing for his return, for this, taking away of sadness and suffering that we do still experience, that we join to him on the cross. And as far as the Mary Did You Know, Father Mike Schmitz just put out an amazing video the other day about the whole feast of the Immaculate Conception. I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, check out his page on Facebook. But essentially, yeah, like Mary Did You Know, the reason Catholics have an issue with that song is just the one line, did this child that you delivered will soon deliver you. In the Catholic faith, we understand that Mary was void of sin when she was conceived, and she did not have to experience original sin. She did not experience pain when she birthed Christ. All of these things she was exempt from because she carried the Son of God. So just like, it's just that one line. Love the song, whatever, but check out Father Mike Schmidt's video on that, because he really does go into a better detail than I am here. So, but as far as the decorations go, a lot of people say, maybe just put up one decoration each day of Advent. But as far as this whole full-blown, everything's out so far in advance, just bear in mind, when the world rejoices, we should be grieving. And when the world is grieving, we will be rejoicing. And just bearing in mind that that's just the order that this goes for this holiday season, as the pagans go forward and they're doing all these things that are not focused around Christ at all. So I just want to encourage you in that this holiday season. God bless you all, and a very Merry Christmas coming up. But until then, just stay in the Word and continue celebrating Advent and your Advent wreaths and growing closer with each other and your families and closer with God in turn with that. So God bless you, and we'll see you again next week.